I wanted to have my first show here on iWatch Radio to be very special, so I asked my good friend Johnny Murdoch to come and join me here in the studio today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thanks so much for coming. I have been thinking a lot about this show, and every time I think about doing a show like this, I always imagine Zach Galifianakis between two ferns. And I think, I don't know, have you seen that one with Natalie Portman?
I have not, no.
Okay. Well, at this Natalie Portman interview, he's sitting there and he says, "So, you shaved your head for V for Vendetta. Did you shave your V for vagina?" And then she says, "Pass." So if I ask you any questions that are past questions, just pull a Natalie Portman on me and
no problem.
And we'll move right along.
Okay.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you about all kinds of things, and one of them is you are a writer.
Mm-hmm.
And how old are you?
I'm 20. I'm turning 29 this year.
Okay. So
yeah.
you're just 20. Yeah. And so, when did you start writing?
I first started writing probably when I was only like 10 or 12 years old. Like I would start writing fan fiction from comic books that I was reading. And then when I got into high school, I realized I wanted to try to take it a little more seriously. And then it wasn't actually, though, until about 5 years ago that I was like, oh, no, wait, I actually have to write in order to be a writer. In order to get anything published, I actually have to write it first. So it's only been within the past 4 or 5 years that I've gotten to the point where I sit down every day and try to write something and then try to submit that to someone else to see if they like it and they'll pay me for it.
Oh, gosh, okay. So you're a published writer.
I am a published writer.
You're official.
For whatever that means, yeah.
So when are you going to start teaching workshops for other people?
I think I have to earn a little more money from writing first before I can feel comfortable enough to tell other people how to do it.
Yeah. So right now your specialty is gay erotica.
It is, yes.
Yes, and that is very exciting for me because I happen to like that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering at what age you started writing the gay erotica, honestly.
Well, honestly, like, it depends. When I was in college, was the first time that I kind of got out of, well, not really far out of my little town, but that I was around a different set of guys than the ones I had grown up about. And my way to process that attraction to those guys was to start writing stories. So it was about 10 years ago that I was like, no, I can write erotic and I can do it pretty well. Oh. Yeah. And then it was 3 years ago now that I started working on a comic book, actually. And it was when that comic book was accepted by a publisher as something they wanted to publish that I decided that I was going to start writing stories on a regular basis to try to drum up interest for that comic book.
Okay, so what does comic book mean? That means you draw the pictures too?
I do not draw the pictures. I write what is best compared to a movie script, and then I send that off to an artist. My friend TJ in Britain actually drew the comic for me. So I would write what was like a movie script, and it would describe each panel and then the dialogue, and then he would draw it.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
So.
Oh, we'll be right back after this message. Oh gosh, sorry we were interrupted, but this is a little bit embarrassing, but I was wearing the wrong shirt, so I had to take some clothes off to do the show, and I had no idea this was going to be that kind of show, but I think this is as far as it's going to get this time, okay?
But if you hear any more music come in, you might come back and we might be wearing something different. There are a few costume changes.
Yeah, you know. Did you bring your clown outfit?
I forgot it at home, so hopefully I don't have to change.
Have you ever written about clowns?
I have not written about clowns.
I've heard some of your stories, and I just was wondering, it seems like the way you do your ideas is you take a hat And you throw a bunch of ideas in it and you pull something out, and that's your creative process. Is that how it works?
A little bit, but the hat is kind of my head. So what happens is that all day long I am just absorbing things, and I'm reading things, and I'm experiencing things. And every once in a while, a couple of those ideas clash into each other, and that's when I know I have a story, is when I can take two disparate ideas and build them into one thing together.
Wow.
And sometimes it's news stories, and sometimes it's just like a hot guy that I see walking down the street, and I'm like, let's build a narrative around that hot guy, so I can tell a story in my head about that guy and taking his clothes off.
Well, here's the thing. I write a lot myself, and I write a lot of nonfiction, and I tell true stories, and I do a lot of essays and personal narratives. So I have a really hard time making things up and writing fiction. So is there a fiction gene that I'm missing, or how do you do that?
It may be. I don't know. It's just something that I've always done. From the time that I was very young, I was always telling stories to myself to entertain myself. Mm-hmm. And then even as I got older, I found that I would tell myself stories to add narratives to otherwise completely boring stories, like just like boring classroom situations, or even to this day, if I watch porn, like I add my own story to it, regardless of what they're doing.
Really?
So it's my way in my head to fill in the blanks of what I'm not being provided. My brain just does it for me.
You would do really well in prison, I'll bet. Because you could just fill in the blanks and make your own stories and just pass the day that way.
I'm very good at entertaining myself, yeah.
Oh my God. Wow. So I want to ask you, now that you're 29,
mm-hmm.
When did you figure out that you were gay?
I want to say as early as 12 or 13, mm-hmm. But it wasn't something that I had the words for until I was older. And it was something that I went through pretty strong denial about even until I was 15 or 16, and then I had to start realizing that there weren't really girls in my fantasies anymore.
So did when you started out and you were 12-ish, before that you were not thinking sexual thoughts?
They weren't.
Or did you have crushes?
I had crushes, and they were definitely sexual thoughts. They weren't always, but it was just like a lot of things that I went through, especially growing up. I had a lot of body issues, mm-hmm. and so I thought that a lot of my attraction had more to do with the fact that I was jealous of men's bodies, of like men who were really fit. Uh-huh. So I was able for a very long time to convince myself that it was jealousy or envy that I was going through, not attraction. And I've always said that the gay people go through this complicated thing with friends and with other people that they meet, that they're never sure if they want to be with another person or be that person. Like, we all have that thing where we aspire to be someone else. Mm-hmm. But for most people, if they're aspiring to be someone of the same gender, they can't confuse that with attraction. And for gay people, I think that there's a lot of confusing that for either situation. Like, it's easy to switch them.
Okay, so I grew up as a teenager bisexual, and teenage years were horrible. Were you growing up gay teenager and not figuring it out, and that was how horrible was that?
In some ways it was really horrible, and in some ways it was nearly as horrible as other people's stories. Like a lot of people, and today especially it's a hot topic, a lot of people are bullied, and I went through very little bullying per se, and the bullying that I went through was more because I was a geek or I was an outsider, and some of that was certainly because I was gay, but I wasn't open or out during school. So while what I went through was terrible for me, I think that it was like the generic thing that all teens go through. It wasn't like a truly horrible horror story.
So you weren't a bully?
No.
You did not bully people?
I did not bully anyone.
When's the last time you beat someone up?
Pretty much never.
Never?
No.
Don't you have any siblings?
I do, and they're all older than me. So I was...
So you were the one?
Yeah. I got it from, yeah.
So when I was growing up, I had a younger brother. He was about 3-ish years younger than me, and every day before breakfast I would beat him up. Every single day. Until I was, I don't know, at some point he finally got to meet my strength and became stronger than me one day. And I tried beating him up, and he beat me up one time, and I was like, whoa, this isn't working out so well anymore, and I walked away, and he never beat me up after that. Like, what is that? What a wimp. No, I'm just joking. It was so nice of him, gosh.
Yeah.
So.
I have a sister that I'm very close to, and growing up, the closer you are to a sibling, the more antagonistic you are to them. But we tended to have a way with words more than we did with violence, although I was prone to, like, shoving, but mostly it was shoving so I could run away.
You didn't do any distracting or look over there.
Right, no. I would push and then run. That was my tactic.
Okay, so what kind of superpower would you like to have?
Oh,
Either
wow.
as a kid or now?
Actually, I think it's always been the same thing. I've always wished that I could turn invisible. I love watching people, and I love watching how people interact with others. And the one way that I never get to do that is how they interact with people when I'm not in the room.
Oh, wow.
And so I want to see how people interact with other people when I'm not in the room.
So have you written a story about an invisible gay man?
I have not yet. Actually, I tend to find a lot of the erotica based around invisibility kind of creepy. Because, and I think it's maybe because I recognize that even that it's creepy in my own head, and so that I'm not
like the Japanese porn. Have you seen that before?
Not invisibility porn.
Yeah, well, the Japanese men wear a all white costume, and that's them being invisible, and then they just grope around on women. It is creepy.
Yeah, so I would say that it's not specifically a sexual thing as much as it's just my general fascination with people.
So, voyeur, is that a term for watching people sexually? Do you know? I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is.
All right. So then what are you if you're just really curious? TV watcher?
Right. No, I think that most people would think that I was a voyeur, but I think that because I'm a writer and I do write the nonfiction stuff as well, that as much as I'm a voyeur, I'm also an exhibitionist. Like, if you'll give me the opportunity, like today, to sit around and talk about myself, I will do it until, the sun comes up.
So lucky.
And so I don't think I fall on either end of that spectrum of voyeur or exhibitionist. I think I fall right in the middle of it.
Does that make you vanilla? Vanilla is when you have what? Very traditional sexual interests? Is that what you would call vanilla?
That's how a lot of people quantify it. I have a few problems with that term, and we've had those discussions before. I think that everyone has their own fascinating quirks, and I think that it's a little hard to put a box around any of those. Yeah.
So, do you think that a gay person can be vanilla, or is that already kinky?
I think that gay people can be vanilla to other gay people. I don't think that most. I don't want to say that. I don't even want to put straight people in a box. I would say that a lot of straight people who consider themselves vanilla think that some gay sex would be out of the vanilla box. And there are certainly some straight people who would think that any kind of gay sex is out of the box and falls into the kinky side. But there are gay people who think that, there's basically the same standard set of stuff that everyone does, and that's most of the stuff that gets labeled vanilla. It's the extracurricular sexual activities that fall out of the vanilla box.
So could you in a box? Could you with some socks? Did you see that Dr. Seuss book growing up?
It's been a long time since I read Dr. Seuss box.
I think it was Box and Socks or something, but what do you think about sex with socks on?
I kind of like it.
I do too. Some people, it's a deal breaker.
Yeah, no, I find that I'm attracted to a lot of things, especially that go in line with a lot of sports.
You have sports fetish, don't you?
A little bit of one. And it's weird because it's not things like baseball uniforms or football uniforms. It's like the things that they wear while they're practicing or work out. So basketball shorts, jock straps, and socks. And I think that the striped sports kind of socks that you see men wear sometimes, I think those are really hot. And to me, that's kind of fetish wear.
Yeah. Do you know, Johnny and I were on a Planned Parenthood sex trivia the other night, and we learned something really amazing and new, and we're so happy to know that G-string is abbreviated for groin string.
Yeah, I was completely dumbfounded on that one.
I was thinking, what was I thinking about it? I thought it was girl string.
Yeah.
And I thought that guys were crossing over or something. But so I don't like G-strings. Do you?
Not really. No, I don't think they're very comfortable.
But jock straps.
Jock straps, yes. And jock straps solve the uncomfortability problem. There's not a strap going up your butt, so. So
it's like a V in the back.
Right.
That is hugging the cheeks.
Right.
And is it always white?
No, there's multiple colors.
Can you decorate a jock strap, have a party where everyone decorates their own?
That sounds like a very good idea. I think you have a future episode right there.
And we could do some. I think there's a kinky crafter group in town, and I think they meet at Tandy Leather every month, and they work mostly with leather. But maybe we should start having those sort of workshops. It'd be nice to